Welcome back, guys. It's AlvinANGERS here with another adventure and another indie gem you may have missed. Now, looking back, as far as I could remember, first person shooters were definitely one of my first loves. And it seems like more and more recently that I'll come across a first person shooter with a unique art direction and a new take on the genre. Think of indie first person shooters like Void Bastards that has that comic book like art style with some rogue like elements, or more recently with Fortune's Run that has that classic pixel art style and went on to implement a rich melee combat system with some pretty cool parry mechanics. But sometimes art direction is not enough to leave us with a lasting mark. Kingdom of the Dead is a fast-paced first-person shooter that replicates that classic Doom-style feel with a twist of its own unique additions, from your one-eyed talking sword that chops heads off to a combat system that leans in favor of getting headshots for that instant kill. Brought all together with its hand-drawn and unique grayscale-like aesthetic that not only makes it stand out among other first-person shooters, but also sets the tone for the story. I'll go through what I liked and what I thought could have been better, but I think overall, fans of boomer shooters will be in for a treat. Vamonos. Kingdom of the Dead takes place in an alternate universe, not that different from our own, and much like in our world, you'll be fighting the undead, demons, and death itself. You'll play as a secret agent Chamberlain's professor turned general. While his past remains a secret, we do know that Agent Chamberlain works for a secret government program codenamed Gatekeeper. While most of the civilization is kept in the dark of this looming threat, Gatekeeper is meant to fight a secret war between Death and Death's invading army and his general. The game does little to piece the story together, but you'll pick things up as you progress through the story and read the dialogue. I won't go into spoilers, not that there's much to spoil anyway, but if you go in expecting a semi-decent plot, you're gonna be a little disappointed. When you first boot up the game, you'll start in Agent Chamberlain's office. The office serves as a hub area and where you'll select your next mission. At the start of the game, you can choose between 3 missions, and in Kingdom of the Dead, there are a total of 9 different levels, all whom share the same primary objective: find and destroy Death's Gate. And of course, for the most part, every mission has one of Death's generals waiting for you at the end. Upon clicking a mission, you'll be given 3 difficulty choices to choose from. The difficulty range from 1 to 3 stars. The higher the difficulty, the more objectives this level will have, and the more resistance the game says you'll encounter. The secondary objectives are usually to find X item or avoid civilian casualties. Note that regardless of the difficulty you choose, I never really found it all that difficult, even at the hardest difficulty. And I'm not flexing, I just think the only thing that makes it difficult is having to be more thorough with the map search and finding X item, and thus fighting more enemies in the process, and having to carefully combat certain encounters so you don't kill any prisoners in the crossfire. I quickly want to touch on the hub area before we move on, because I do think it's one of the assets in the game that went heavily unused. At first, loved the opening moments of actually feeling like an agent, and for a second I thought we were actually going to do some investigation work. For the very least, the hub would serve as this place we went to after missions to upgrade our weapons or somehow advance the agent's capabilities in one manner or another, and this was sadly not the case. But they did in a future update where they introduced a new mode called Endless Mode, which is pretty much a horde mode. You can now access this mode through the hub only. Me to the combat. At the start of any mission, you'll start off with your revolver and your one-eyed sword. I will say the combat is one of the strengths of the game. The revolver feels snappy for landing your headshots or getting that perfect slice that pops an enemy's head right off, which was actually pretty satisfying. And I don't know if that makes me sound like a serial killer or just a gamer, but nonetheless, it was enjoyable. You'll be fighting different variations of the undead, from your undead with swords and guns to your demon dogs, who are actually pretty hard to hit at close range, to your bigger brutes and even undead sorcerers. You'll need to make every shot count, as there's only so much health and ammunition to start with. You can get additional resources from breaking boxes and your occasional drop from the enemy. You can even get temporary health boosts that give you additional hearts, but that only lasts till the end of your mission. You'll also find additional weapons like your single barrel shotgun, which is highly effective at close range but has a wide spread. And then you have your rifle that is better equipped to fight at longer ranges. And then you have your heavier weapons like your minigun or your rocket launcher that makes things go boom. Additionally, you'll come across dynamite that you can toss at enemies, but make sure not to blow yourself up. And if you do ending up facing your demise, you'll respawn at your last checkpoint, which is the stationary record book. You'll run through a couple at these at each level, and I'd say they were fairly spaced apart. Additionally, when you complete a mission, you will not carry any of your newly acquired weapons, ammo, or dynamite with you to the next mission. I also want to note that on secondary objectives, that if you fail to complete them, the game will still let you finish the mission, but it'll be considered a failed mission, and it will not give you additional missions to go on, and the mission itself will be not considered to be cleared. I remember encountering my first civilian, and I was very close to just popping him right with my shotgun because he just looked like some crazy naked man charging right at me. But clearly, that man has been through some things. He does not look okay. Now, I want to move on to the bosses themselves, which unfortunately was a bit of a letdown. It definitely felt like bosses were an afterthought because while combat through the level felt great, when it came down to bosses, it felt somewhat out of place. There were no interesting boss mechanics that made it stand out, or even their designs was not unique. Some bosses were actually really easy to kill. I would be able to damage them until they had half of their health before they could even attack me, which I'm sure is a mistake somewhere. And some were just a pain to land a shot on. Lastly, I'll touch on the level designs. There are certain missions that I love because they really stood out, and then there are others who are thematically different, but they lack that creativity. I also think for certain points in the game, they could have used all the space they created a little better. Like there were times that literally all the enemies were funneling through this one door or hallway, which made them really easy to shoot down, which is still fun, but giving us different pressure points where enemies are spawning from, like a door we passed or something, could have made for more memorable combat moments. One of my favorite missions was when we were aboard the moving train, and even though we were fighting in these tight quarters, it was still fun because I had little room to fall back to, and in the large areas, I could just fall back every time and I could just pick them apart one at a time. There's something that happens also halfway through the train mission that caught me by surprise, which was awesome, but I won't go into details because I don't want to spoil anything. Another cool thing I liked that I didn't get to try out much because I discovered it towards the end of my playthrough was the color options, which pretty much changed colors of the game, and there were some interesting options. Alright guys, so at the time of making this video, the game is currently $15, and I believe there's a demo you can try out if you want to check it out. Overall, I enjoyed my time with Kingdom of the Dead, and it may seem like I picked at a lot of things, but that's because when you can see the vision of what a game could have been, and it quite didn't push through to the finish line to get its best version of itself, it could be quite upsetting. But nonetheless, if a sequel came out tomorrow, I would check it out. Things I would love to see is let me upgrade my agent somehow. Like, even if someone fails a mission, it's a terrible feeling to come back empty-handed. Also, if they could add something to the sword, it was fun to use, but the guns were just better in combat. For example, some kind of ability bar that once full would give you a special attack. Lastly, a better story would be nice. There were some things that caught me off guard in the story, and I did enjoy them, but give me some more badass boss fights. All right. Let me know what you guys think, and if there's anything I missed, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to give this video a like and a comment. We are still a pretty new channel, so it helps a ton. Don't forget to subscribe to keep up to date with all future videos, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.